Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back for your Cancer season transit update reading, as well as a collective tarot reading we'll do at the end of the transit update. I will put the timestamp for the tarot reading in the caption below if you want to skip ahead, but as always, I will encourage you to stick around just because we have an incredibly prolific Cancer season ahead of us. And as always, again, if you see me glancing over to the side, I've just got my notes right here for the season, which thank goodness I took these notes because there's a lot to talk about. So, Cancer season begins on June 21st at 4:24 in the morning, and about 13 hours later, right at the beginning of the Cancer season, we will have our first quarter moon in Libra, station exact at 5:55 p.m. at 0 degrees and 32 minutes. Now, I emphasize the first quarter moon because leave it to Cancer season to have two first quarter moons in Libra, stationing exact on the first day and on the second to last day because Cancer season ends July 22nd at 3:13 p.m. So we'll have a full 31 and a half days of Cancer season, and that second first quarter moon in Libra stations exact on the 21st of July at 7:06 in the morning at 28 degrees and 43 minutes in Libra. Again, leave it to Cancer season to have an extra moon, a moon cycle and a half, we'll call it, a moon cycle and a quarter, I guess it would be. So there's this emphasis of like justice that is subtly creeping underneath all of the other transits that we will be experiencing. And on top of that, it's very collective oriented, which Libra's tendency towards justice does gear more towards the collective because while justice can focus on individual righteousness in that sense, there's also this aspect with all of the cardinal signs of being leaders, right? And leaders do not lead nothing. Leaders lead the collective. And I think that's kind of what we're moving through with this Cancer season, especially with the emphasis that we have with the outer planets. Now, all of the outer planets will be at 4 degrees of their prospective signs. So throughout all of Cancer season, we will have Pluto and Neptune directly sextiling each other at 4 degrees Aquarius and Aries, respectively. And Uranus will be at 3 degrees until July 8th, where it will bump into that 4 degree mark as well to join up with the other outer planets to make that perfect. I think they're all sextile then. Yeah, because it's in Gemini, sextiling um, Neptune, which is in Aries, which will sextile Pluto, which is in Aquarius. So then Uranus and Pluto will be directly trine. So we're having all of these magnificent aspects with the outer planets. And then in the last few days of Cancer season on the 19th of July, Jupiter will join up in that configuration with the outer planets to make a perfect cradle. Now, Jupiter will be at 4 degrees Leo. Again, Uranus at 4 degrees Gemini, Neptune at 4 degrees Aries, and Pluto at 4 degrees Aquarius. And by that point, Neptune will join Pluto to station retrograde as well. So we'll have two of the outer planets retrograde, Uranus gearing up to go retrograde in the coming months, and then Jupiter has already transitioned into Leo. So that's something to look forward to. We'll get to that when we get there later in the notes, but we will, oh my gosh, also to add on to that exponential energy, we will also have a lot of 0 degrees energy throughout all of Cancer season. Chiron will sit at 0 degrees for nearly the entire time. The north nodes will sit, or the north and south node will sit at 0 degrees for a large portion of Cancer season. And throughout the whole time, we'll have two asteroids that are prominent in terms of our devotion to ourself and our growth and our spiritual transformation and our aspects of wisdom and like strategy and strategic planning for the future. Vesta, which is the first, and Pallas, which is the second, those two asteroids are going to be with each other pretty much, again, for the entire Cancer season. They will be directly on top of each other, almost in this dance of like, we're moving forward, now we're moving forward, now we're moving forward, now we're moving forward. And that's going to pass over some of the other planets as well that are in Aries. And that's happening in Aries with all of the other planetary energy that we have with Saturn and Neptune and Chiron and Eris, of course, because Eris loves to camp out where she is for a very long time. But yeah, it's a lot of very powerful, potent, yet subtle energy because it deals with not necessarily the planets that are always in your face or always considered like the main planetary energies, the moving bodies, but it's more collectively speaking. It's more collectively speaking and subconsciously, unconsciously speaking. So it's this emphasis of allowing this inner transformation to happen under the surface where everything on the outside seems like cool, kosher, whatever. You might be feeling that dissonance internally because maybe what you're used to going towards, maybe the schedule you've had for yourself for a long time, the routine you've gotten used to, you're recognizing internally while externally it still works, it still functions, it still keeps you healthy, wealthy, wise, beautiful, whatever, but you can feel this disconnect because this is a season of allowing our subconscious desires and recognition of what no longer fits, allowing that to come to the surface so we can make the change as the collective is also making these massive transitions in the larger scale. So if you feel yourself becoming more disconnected from what you've known to be yourself for a long time, it can feel like a part of you is dying in that aspect. And especially with Cancer, traditionally speaking, Cancer rules the fourth house, which is the lowest, the most southern point of our birth chart. If we think about the opposite, the midheaven is the most like public, prominent, viewed point of our reputation, right? So the opposite of that is the most internal aspect of ourselves. And that's what Cancer season is going to really bring about. It's going to show you the ways in which you maybe haven't been as honest with yourself as you can be about who you actually are, what you actually want to do, and perhaps the ways in which you've fallen into a comfortable routine because it's comfortable, not necessarily because it's conducive to growth. But again, with the moon cycles being all cardinal ruled and us having, again, 2 first quarter moons in Libra, there's this emphasis of reclaiming justice first for yourself and then also allowing justice to be reclaimed, collectively speaking. So, again, prolific season we have ahead of us. And again, I'm going to do this one a little differently than I've done in the past, where in the past I've gone through every single date and every single major transition. We're going to try to fly through those just for the sake of time here. But again, we start Cancer season on June 21st at 4:24 in the morning. And I want to emphasize, I love that it starts at 4:24 a.m. Eastern time, I should specify, and then it ends at a 3:13. So that those sandwich numbers, and again, I know that's only relevant for Eastern Standard Time, but I like to think there's still some sort of I love numerology, so there's still some sort of energy there, right? Backing that up. And on that same day that the sun enters Cancer, we will have Vesta directly conjoining Pallas in Aries at 15 degrees, and they will both be conjoined Saturn at that time, which will be at 13 degrees, so less than a 2 degree orb there. And then again with the 1st quarter moon. So it's a lot of energy of transformation or transition, I should say, immediately dropping you into your subconscious. Like the minute the sun enters Cancer, we have the moon entering Libra shortly after that. Look where Cancer and Libra is specifically in your birth chart to see what will be highlighted, and Aries as well, because it's like these three cardinal directions all being blown to smithereens in the best way, because there's this emphasis of trying to get you to understand where you are misaligned. It's like as soon as Cancer season starts, Cancer is the first and youngest of the water signs, so there's this emphasis of psychic understanding, intuitive understanding of self and the people around you. So it starts with the self, it starts internally, especially with Vesta and Pallas conjoining Saturn. Where have you been allowing yourself to be swayed by disillusionment with the Neptune emphasis in Aries? Where have you been allowing yourself to allow disillusionment to take you off of the path of devotion to self? Have you been overly devoted to things that truly aren't great for you? Whether that's a relationship, whether that's unhealthy habits, whether that's a job that you know you've been done with for a very long time but are still staying because you're afraid of what it means to actually follow the path of your dreams, whatever it may be. Where have you been showing devotion and commitment and discipline towards that you know intuitively and internally is not meant for you? That's going to be that first step on the trajectory towards justice that will be emphasized this season. Because again, with that Libra first quarter moon in Libra, there's that emphasis there. A lot of people ignore the quarter moons because the new and the full moons kind of take up a lot of the emphasis of the moon cycles, but the quarter moons are check-in. They're necessary elements where we can stop and check in with ourselves along that trajectory of the moon cycle and see, where have I grown? What have I done? Have I done anything to change between these two moon cycles? Between if it's the 1st quarter moon, so yeah, between the new moon, we're halfway to the full moon. Have you been sticking with your schedule? Have you been allowing yourself to flow with the tides and move with the energy that the planets want you to move with in order to realign you to yourself? Or have you been allowing your ego to kind of take control? And when I say that, I don't mean ego in like a strictly negative way. We need our egos in order to survive and achieve the goals that we were set out into these bodies to achieve, right? But there's a healthy balance. And I think we can get very disoriented when we come into these bodies and into this system that the earth still currently resides in, and we can get sidetracked. Those quarter moons are very good, again, like a check-in point along your journey. Imagine you're hiking up a big mountain. I think if you hike up Everest, it's called something specific and it's escaping my brain. Base camp. It's like a base camp in between the new and the full moons. The base camp, especially as we wax from the new moon to the full moon, it's like we're halfway there, right? We still have another half to go. From here, have you achieved everything that you said you wanted to by this point, especially with Saturn's involvement with Vesta and Pallas? Have you achieved everything from here to here that you want to achieve? Are you still on the same trajectory to get done the work you need to get done in order to get here? And then when it comes to the rest period, halfway there, have you been overworking yourself? Have you been doing too much? Have you been not doing enough in order to reflect and rest and allow the wisdoms of this journey to actually anchor and integrate before we get to the new moon, where we start the cycle over again. Necessary rest points. Don't sleep on the first or last quarter moons here. And again, especially since we have 2 first quarter moons in Libra for this Cancer season, I'm going to emphasize that so much. But anyway, as we continue on, we have the 22nd. We'll have Venus directly opposing Juno at 10 degrees Leo and Aquarius together. And Juno and Venus represent similar qualities, where Venus is like love and beauty and harmony and partnership. Juno also represents, again, this devotional aspect in terms of partnership. Juno is equivalent to Hera in Greek and Roman mythology. So the wife of Zeus, the wife of Jupiter. It's funny because Jupiter is involved with this, is it not? Oh no, never mind. Never mind. Jupiter's not involved in this yet, but Venus, like our love and harmony and our desire for aesthetic pleasures and beauties and our value system opposing Juno. It's asking yourself to really take a look at your relationships. And I believe Juno will be retrograde by this point too. Yeah, Juno's retrograde by this point. So Juno's going to be asking you to take a hard look at your relationships and see if your values, if your aesthetics, if the way that you achieve beauty and harmony in your life is actually aligning with the current relationships you are involved in, whether that is romantic or platonic or even just familial. Are your values being honored? Are you honoring your values? Are you setting good boundaries in order to actually show up in the ways you need to show up, not only for the relationship, but also for yourself? Because Juno is creeping closer to Pluto as we move through these days as well, as they're both retrograde. It'll be exactly 5 degrees away on this day. So just take a hard look and ask yourself. And that's really what Cancer season is about this year. It's about being honest with yourself about where you have not been allowing yourself to give back to yourself, where you've been overextending yourself externally, and how you can begin to bring awareness to that so then you can put that focus back internally speaking. Because again, fourth house emphasis, we're getting to the root cause of all of our issues, and oftentimes we find the root cause is ourself. It's our choices. That's what's going to be emphasized this Cancer season. But the beauty is the first step is awareness. The beauty is once you become aware of the thing, you can start to change the thing. And that's what this Cancer season is going to be about, that emphasis of justice and justice for the self. So on the 23rd, following that day, Mercury is going to vastly slow down in the coming days before it stations retrograde. So on the 23rd, Mercury will be at 24 degrees in Cancer. And this is when she'll only creep up about 2 degrees in the next 7 days, the 23rd, in the next 6 days before she stations retrograde. It's they, before they station retrograde, because Mercury is gender fluid in that way. But right before Mercury always stations retrograde, and then again subsequently when it stations direct after it goes retrograde, those couple days before, it really slows down its pace. So it will never meet up to conjoin Jupiter. It'll be just behind Jupiter. I believe it'll go up to 26 degrees. Let me see if I have it here. I don't have it written down here, but I believe it'll be up to 26 or like the very early minutes of 27 degrees Cancer. So it'll be close to Jupiter, but it will never directly conjoin Jupiter just before it turns around. But it's starting on that 23rd. That's when Mercury really starts to slow down. So you might feel your mental processing getting a bit slower. And I think this is going to help with that conjunction that we have with Pallas and Vesta throughout the season, because Pallas, again, is that strategic planning. And especially with them both being in Aries and all of the other planets in Aries as well, Aries rules the head, which involves the mind, right? We don't necessarily think of Aries as like mental capacity, but because Aries rules the head, our brain resides in our head. So it's like the container for the brain to exist, right? So as Mercury slows down from the 23rd until the 29th when it goes retrograde, you might be feeling your mental processing slow down. You might be feeling like the cogs are starting to get a little bit foggy because we'll be in the shadow period by that point. And you're kind of just like you're trying really hard to get to the point, but it's hard for you to actually reach the point. Like it's just out of reach. You can see it, you can smell it, you can almost touch it, but it's just out of reach. That's because Mercury is slowing down. So just give yourself grace during that period. And then again, especially all throughout the season while Mercury is retrograde. I don't believe it turns around while we're still in Cancer season. I might be wrong about that, but we'll figure it out as we go. If I remember correctly, I believe it turns around right at the beginning of Leo season. So We'll see. We'll see as we go through the notes here. But yeah, just prepare yourself again from the 23rd to the 29th to slow down and really allow yourself not to get frustrated in that slower pace. Because again, with Vesta and Pallas conjoining one another, you are reestablishing a sense of devotion to your internal alchemy, to your internal world, not only in your mind, but your mind is included in that because it's reawakening the soul and it's reawakening the spark of spirit that guides you into the path of your true destiny, right? That's what Cancer season is. This is a season of realignment, a season of realignment here. And so when Mercury slows down, it gives you the opportunity, especially with Aries being wanting to be a fast-paced energy, it gives you the opportunity to allow the head and the mind and the brain to kind of relax itself. So you can see more of those like little blind spots that you've had while you were trying to rush. You can see more easily where those blind spots have left you vulnerable, have left you open to influence, have left you, missing a key component of what you need in order to realign to your true devotion in order to move forward. Strategically planning. This is all coming together beautifully. And then Mercury retrograde as we move throughout those next couple weeks, with again, Vesta and Pallas still together in Aries, that Mercury retrograde is going to give you the opportunity to see a different scope of the ways that you can take your devotional side and how you want to tend to your own flame, your own inner spirit, and your own spirituality, how you can become more strategic with that in a way that your sun, your ego, doesn't necessarily see for itself, because the sun is going to be square Aries because it's in Cancer. So it's like this tense aspect which forces you to see a different perspective, and Mercury going retrograde is just going to emphasize that. It's going to emphasize like this tense, it's not an opposition because an opposition is this way, but this tense like dynamic, right? Where the sun wants to believe it is one thing, but you are being forced to see that your strategic planning, your devotion, your long-term discipline and like focus and the restrictions that come about with that because of Saturn's involvement here, disillusionment, Neptune, Chiron. Oh, no, at this point, Chiron will be at 0 degrees Taurus. But still, Eris is still there too because it's that aspect of discord and chaos. So there's going to be a lot of tension between the ways in which you believe yourself to be and you believe maybe the right way to do things is, and there's going to be that emphasis with Libra there as well, the Libra quarter moon activation, right? You're going to believe there's a specific way that you should be doing things, but the Mercury retrograde going backwards and all this energy in Aries making that tense aspect is going to show you that there is another way. And just because this way is different doesn't mean it's wrong. And it's giving you the opportunity to go inward and expand from the inside out so you aren't so rigid in the way that you view yourself and what you are supposed to do in this world. It's giving you a higher or greater or more widened vantage point or a widened perspective to see yourself. Because truly, if we think about the mind is infinite. The mind is infinite, but we put these strict restrictions. I never realized that strict was in the word restriction. That makes sense. Anyway, we put these strict, rigid borders about who we believe ourselves to be, which limits the mind, which limits our capacity for greatness, which limits our capacity for alignment, which limits our capacity for truth. The truth is, our truth is infinite, which means our capacity to express ourselves is infinite. So any box we try to put ourselves in, or any label that we say we should be doing this, we should be doing that, we shouldn't be doing this, we shouldn't be doing, it's limiting your truest, most authentic version of expression. And as we're putting that emphasis on our soul, on our spirit, on that Cancerian energy within us, there's that emphasis of allowing yourself to see how truly infinite you are. But that starts with that tense aspect of like seeing yourself from all of the angles, from deciding to think about something in a certain way that you wouldn't normally think about because you've been taught or you believe you shouldn't think about it that way. That's a big theme this Cancer season. I'm telling you. Telling you. But as we are going to move ahead, I also wrote down for as Mercury slows down, it'll slow down at 25 degrees. So yeah, I guess it gets to 26 degrees just before it stations retrograde, but it'll be at 25 degrees for a couple days, making that exact square with Eris, again, the goddess of discord and chaos and disruption. So the way we think just before Mercury turns around, as Mercury starts to slow down, it's making that tense aspect with the goddess of chaos and discord and disruption, allowing you the opportunity before it actually turns around to start to see and process things differently in your mind. It's going to be like, I have to sneeze. Oh, why did I say that? Now it went away. Shoot. It's going to be like throwing a grenade into a big pit, right? You dig a big hole and you throw a grenade in there. The hole is just going to get bigger. It's going to expose. It's going to expose maybe more rocks, more crystals, more things, maybe a water source that you couldn't see before. It's going to show you more, but in order to discover the more, there's got to be the chaos of the explosion before the more can be discovered. So that's kind of the theme we're moving with before Mercury turns around. Mars moves into Gemini on June 28th at 3:29 p.m. And we'll also on the same day have Venus trining the Vesta Pallas conjunction at 17 degrees Leo and Aries respectively. So I like the Venus opposition with Juno first to get you to understand where you've been allowing your values or your desires or anything to not be honored in terms of the way you show up in relationships. And then following that, we'll have the trine about a week later with Vallis and I almost said pesto. That Vesta and Pallas, Vallis and pesto. Vesta and Pallas will have that harmonious trine aspect into fire signs. So it's going to be the expose first of where you have been allowing your boundaries to be stepped on. And then with the trine, following the opposition with Juno, the trine with Vesta and Pallas will show you the ways in which you can reframe that devotion, strategically come back home to yourself, strategically set up goals and visions and plans for yourself to set up a new way to be devotional to your values, to your aesthetics, to your beauties, to whatever it is that you want to amplify in terms of the Venetian qualities in your life. So I really like that because the opposition with Juno is the setup to get you to see where you can work on in the trine there. And again, that's on the 28th of June. Then on the 29th, Mercury stations retrograde at 1:36 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, and that's the same day as the full moon. The same day as the full moon in Capricorn. So Mercury is turning around in Cancer at 26 degrees. The full moon in Capricorn will be at 8 degrees Capricorn, while the sun is at 8 degrees Cancer. And Jupiter is going to be at the very last minutes of Cancer at 29 degrees and 56 minutes. Holy moly! Holy moly, what a day! What a day. And then almost exactly 24 hours after Mercury stations retrograde in Cancer with that full moon in Capricorn. So just so you are aware of the timing, Mercury stations retrograde at 1:36 p.m. on the 28th. And then at 7:57 p.m. on the 28th, that's when the full moon stations exact at 8 degrees Cancer and Capricorn. And then at the time of the full moon, Jupiter will be at 29 degrees and 56 minutes in Cancer. So this is going to be the last Cancerian, the last moon ruled Jupiter energy that we will have a full moon for. And the fact that it's going to be at a critical degree at 29 degrees during the full moon in Capricorn, Jupiter, that's an expansive energy. And Mercury stationing retrograde that day goes back to what I was saying. The more you can lean into the chaos and potential discord and the disruption and allow yourself to like not force. Never we never want to force, but feel the ways your perspective is shifting and widening. The more you lean into that and allow that to happen, rather than getting like tense and upset and anxious about, oh my God, whose thoughts are these? These aren't my thoughts. What's going on? And freaking out about your self-identity. Jupiter that day is going to expand anything that you think, feel, or know within you. Because again, it's in the very last minutes during the last full moon where it will be in Cancer until it makes another round around the entire zodiac. So Jupiter's not going back into Cancer once it moves into Leo. Jupiter's not going back into Cancer once it moves into Leo. This is the last full moon in the last moments that Jupiter will still be ruled by this full moon. So it's going to vastly amplify whatever is going on internally. Lean into the chaos, lean into the forced perspective shift, lean into the emotions you're feeling, because if you can feel them without running away or freaking out about them, because there's a difference between feeling the depths of pain or sorrow or confusion or heartache. There's a difference between feeling into it and freaking out about it. If you freak out about it, Jupiter at that 29 degrees is going to amplify the freaking out about it. And then it's just going to be kind of a theme you're going to have to move through as Jupiter moves through Leo, because again, it's not coming back into Cancer. Be mindful of the way you're approaching whatever is emerging on this day. And again, that's the 29th of June, when Mercury stations retrograde, the full moon stations exact at 7:57 p.m., and Jupiter is in those last degrees. Because the next day on the 30th, again, almost exactly a little bit more than 24 hours after Mercury stations retrograde, Jupiter then moves into Leo at 1:52 p.m. Eastern Time. So Jupiter will be at 0 degrees. Mars will be at 0 degrees, Gemini. Chiron will be at 0 degrees Taurus. So Jupiter will be in Leo, exactly sextiling. Is that a sextile? Yeah, exactly sextiling Mars in Gemini, 0 degrees Mars in Gemini, which will make a semi-sextile to Chiron at 0 degrees in Taurus, which means that Jupiter is also going to square Chiron. So if again, this emphasizes exactly what I just mentioned. If you lean into the chaos and allow yourself to move and flow with the disruption and the changes that are awakening within you, especially mentally speaking, but especially in terms of your emotions as well. And in terms of your ego identity, because Leo is ruled by the sun, which represents the ego, as we just talked about. There's going to be that disconnect between what you think you are and how your mind and your soul want to move, how you want to be devotional to yourself. There's already going to be that tense aspect. And then Jupiter moves into the planet or the sign of the sun, the sign of the ego. On that day of the full moon, if you don't freak out about the changes and the upheaval and whatever is being unearthed within you, and instead you flow with it, it's going to make your Jupiter in Leo transit a lot easier for the next year. Because Jupiter is just going to expand everything, and then it's going to go, as soon as it leaves Cancer, it's making an exact square to Chiron for the next at least week until it moves into 1 degree. And even still, it's going to have that prominent energy. It just won't be exact. Chiron is our deepest wounds and our efforts to heal them. Chiron is the wounded healer because he can heal everybody else but can't heal his own fatal wound. Chiron is wounded. And squares are tense aspects, and Jupiter is an amplifier. And Mars involved with this, making a harmonious aspect with Jupiter, Mars being our planet of action and drive and passion and our willpower. Use your will to allow it to be strong enough to move with the tides rather than freak the fuck out. This day, these 2 days, well, the 28th too, because that's when Mars moves into Gemini and we'll have that trine with Venus and Vesta and Pallas. The 28th through the 1st. Oh my gosh. And then Mars also will square the nodes around 1 a.m. on July 1st. So yeah, the 28th to the 1st, be very mindful about what is coming up, about how you're moving through what's coming up, and how you believe yourself to be in response to what's coming up. We get very comfortable in the familiar. We get very comfortable and feel safe in our routine, in what we know, in how we choose to know ourselves. And it can be very scary when we discover we are a lot bigger than we were giving ourselves credit for. It's scary because A, we see all of the potential that we in that moment may consider ourselves to have wasted in the years coming up. I want to emphasize the fact though, it's never wasted potential. You've awakened to your truth the moment you were meant to awaken to your truth, the moment you were able to do something about awakening to your truth. Everything that came before that was school. It was training season. It was to get you to the point where you were able to awaken to the understanding of self when you actually had the willpower to do something about it rather than wallow. Don't see it as a waste because, again, as Jupiter moves through Leo, it's going to expand. It's going to expand everything you're telling yourself in that moment from the 28th until the 1st. Don't see it as a waste. See it as training. See it as practice. See it as like the season of practice up until like the world championships, whatever it is. But again, I can't, I'm beating this dead horse right now because I need to emphasize, don't allow the chaos and confusion and the lack of clarity and the discomfort to cause inner turmoil. You're clearing your system out of what no longer resonates, of what you no longer need because you're expanding. And trust that the expansion will bring you towards prosperity in the long run. You're not losing yourself. You're discovering a lot more of yourself. So don't allow the discomfort to cause internal turmoil. Lean into it. Lean into the discomfort. Give gratitude to the discomfort. Give gratitude to the chaos that you might be feeling inside. Move through the emotions and the mental things that come up. Don't ruminate. Continue. Continue forward. Jeez. So, we're gonna jump ahead. Oh, okay. Venus is subtly playing a lot of her own games over here because we had her opposite Juno and then trine Vesta and Pallas. And then on the first, she will make an exact trine with Lilith at 21 degrees Leo and Sagittarius. So this goes back. Oh my gosh, wait. And then it's also forming a grand trine with Vesta at 18 degrees Aries. Let me jump ahead here because I believe at that point Vesta and Pallas will be slightly different. Let's see the first. Yeah, so Pallas will be at 17 degrees. So yeah, that I think Pallas is just out of that scope there. Um, but with Venus, Venus will still be trining Vesta by that point. And then Lilith as well. I wouldn't count Lilith and Vesta together. I mean, it's a stretch. It's 3 degrees, and for asteroids, I usually cap it at 2.5 degrees. But yeah, we'll count it here. I think it's a little bit over the 2.5 degree mark. It's like 2 and 3/4 degrees that it'll be exact. So we'll count that. We'll count that grand trine just with Vesta though, which is our devotional spirit. It's the devotion we show ourselves to discover that inner flame and tend to it once we discover it. Goes back to what I was just saying. You figured out who the fuck you were and the power you actually hold exactly when you were ready to do something about it. So I love that the next day Venus is making that grand trine with Lilith and Vesta. Because Lilith, after Venus made the opposition to Juno, and then that trine with Vesta and Pallas, now the grand trine between the three. And this is actually fucking beautiful. It's like three, like it's the triad of the divine feminine. Venus as the divine quote, light, quote, light feminine, for lack of a better term. Because Lilith represents the dark feminine aspect of us, and then Vesta is that devotional feminine. She's the hearth, she's the goddess of the hearth, the sacred flame within us, making a grand trine to one another after we've started to allow the tides to shift to expand our inner understanding of self. That's the triad, baby. That's the triad. Venus, Lilith, and Vesta, that's the triad. Bringing them all into harmony together. It's like, oh, this is fascinating. It's like the days leading up to that was you like scrambling to discover the door. And then Jupiter moves into the 0 degrees with all those other aspects, and you're like, wait, where's the key? I went through all these trials and tribulations. Where's the fucking key? Where's the key? Where's the key? And then on the day of this trine, you couldn't find the key because the key was meant to be presented to you after you settled into the understanding that the less I try, the more it works. I actually had this realization of how deeply true that phrase that Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try. That truth anchored into me just yesterday. Because there is no try. The more you try, the less you succeed. You just have to do it. You have to allow your body to do what it needs to do in order to get it done. That's the energy of the triad there. Venus, Vesta, and Lilith. That's the energy of the triad. Stop freaking out. Stop trying to force. Stop trying to push. Stop trying to do. Stop trying. Because the moment you stop trying is when the truth anchors. It's when it becomes effortless. Your body can do it. You just have to believe it can and stop trying. Period. Ah, and then we go on from there. Vesta continues to conjoin Pallas. Mars then conjoins Uranus at 3 degrees Gemini on the 3rd, just days before Uranus moves into that 4 degree, and then those exact aspects with Pluto and Neptune there. But we'll just continue forward again for the sake of time. I always talk so much on these. We've got Mars sextiling Neptune, trining Pluto. Yeah, that's fine. Venus trining Eris, which will take the energy of that triad and add yet another component of the divine feminine, a darker divine feminine, but again, that goddess of chaos and discord. Venus trining Eris in a fire sign, it's just really a callback to bring in all of those sides of yourself and sometimes recognize that the things we hold value in and the things we find beauty in can be in the decrepit, can be in the chaotic, can be in what we would traditionally consider beautiful. That trine is asking you to be more aware and understanding of what you consider beautiful and how your idea of beauty can vastly expand from the perspective you hold right now. How beautiful is that? Okay, and then on the 7th, so we'll have Sun squaring Saturn on the 6th. So that's just going to, again, bring a bit of tension between who you think you are and the things you have to do in order to achieve your long-term goals. It feels like a low-key player here, though, just, again, one of those check-in points. But then on the 7th, we have Neptune stationing retrograde at 6:55 in the morning on the same day as the last quarter moon in Aries at 15 degrees Aries, which conjoins Saturn at 14 degrees Aries. So Neptune, which is in Aries, stationing retrograde on the same day as our last quarter moon in Aries, which will conjoin Saturn in Aries. So remember all that energy about the head we talked about at the beginning of Cancer season? This feels like one of those base camps, especially starting with the first quarter moon in Libra. This last quarter moon in Aries feels like a base camp as we approach the new moon. Remember the analogy I used earlier? That first check-in point from the new moon until the first quarter moon. Am I still on the right trajectory to reach my goals and desires to allow myself to receive them at the full moon? And now we're at the last quarter moon. So on our way from the last quarter moon, or from the full moon in Capricorn to the new moon in Cancer, this last quarter moon in Aries, how have you been taking care of your head? It's that check-in to ask yourself, have you been allowing the expansion to occur, or have you been running away? Have you been freaking out? Check in. Have you been allowing anxious thoughts to tell you what is and what isn't? Or have you been leaning into the necessary growth and the growing pains that come with that growth? I made a video the other day on TikTok. I didn't post it yet, but I said, you can't spell grow without how. Embrace the growing pains. So it's funny this is coming back up. That's what that last quarter moon is. How have you been embracing the growing pains, or have you been pissed off about how uncomfortable and awkward they actually are? How weird it is to have this sort of expansion move through you. Yeah, it's fucking weird, but it's worth it. That's what that last quarter moon represents in Aries. With Neptune's involvement in Aries and Neptune stationing retrograde the same day in Aries, the moon stationing exact, conjoining Saturn. This is this check-in will help you align yourself to long-term growth and prepare yourself for potential disillusionment with that Neptune retrograde in Aries. Take heed with that. So all of that's happening on the 7th, and then the next day on the 8th is when Uranus moves into 4 degrees Gemini to make those exact aspects with Neptune, which is now retrograde, Pluto, which has been retrograde, and then Jupiter will join them shortly thereafter in exactly 10 days from then. We're going to jump ahead through these. On the 9th, we will have Venus move into Virgo, where it will conjoin the South Node at 0 degrees Virgo, trine Chiron at 0 degrees Taurus, and with Venus is playing a subtle yet potent role. A subtle yet potent role. Because I feel like in a lot of these bigger transits, it's involving the other energies, the other cardinal energies, the other planets. And Venus has been telling her own story from the beginning, especially the first quarter moon ruled by Venus. And 2 Venus ruled quarter moons during Cancer season. Venus is telling her own story throughout the entirety of Cancer season. See where your Venus sits in your chart, because that'll give you a hint as to the energies that she's moving through, and especially if she passes over any of your personal placements. As she moves through Cancer, or no, I guess as she moves through, yeah, all of Cancer season she'll be in Leo. As she moves through Leo and then Virgo coming up here. Because on the 9th, while she is making the direct conjunction with the South Node and technically opposition with the North Node there, and then a trine with Chiron, all at 0 degrees, it's going to take that energy of the triad, the emphasis of Eris there, Juno. She's been moving through her own cycle of healing and revealing and unearthing and rebirthing, especially as she joins the South Node to trine Chiron there as well, at 0 degrees nonetheless, in Virgo nonetheless. The Virgin. Venus is telling the story of the divine feminine reawakening and coming back home to herself. Venus is telling the story of the ways in which it's like the hero's journey as we know it is very masculine coded. It's very focused on the path of the sun, right? So I've always resonated with the hero's journey, but I've always at the same time felt disconnected because it feels more more geared towards the masculine side of things. Venus is going through her own hero's journey throughout Cancer season in the realm of the feminine. 0 degrees Virgo, that's like very Persephone degree to me. Venus and the South Node coming together. It's that final recognition of, it reminds me of like when Persephone finally anchors into the awareness and understanding of the ways in which her actions and the way she's allowed herself to be tricked got her into the situation she is in now, where she has to spend half of her time I almost said below deck, half of her time in the underworld and then half of her time in the above ground, in life, you know? It's that coming to the realization of my actions and the consequences of my actions are exactly what brought me here, but I'm not a victim of my circumstances. And that goes back to what I was saying about you discover who the fuck you are exactly when you are able to make, like, to do something about it, and not a second before. The minute Persephone anchored into the awareness that her actions, even when she was naive and innocent of the what was actually going on, she recognizes that she was never a victim because those actions brought her to her seat of power. And that's the story of Venus through Cancer season. It's the ways in which that it's allowing you to see just that fact about yourself. Even when you were innocent or naive or ignorant of what was actually happening directly to you. People were saying it to your face and maybe you thought shit was sweet when it wasn't sweet. You're going to see and truly understand and comprehend that you were never a victim of your circumstances. And you're going to find a new seat of power here. Especially on the same day, Mars is making an exact, what is that? An exact trine with Juno. And we started Cancer season with Venus opposing Juno. Now Mars, the planet of action and passion and desire and drive, is making a harmonious aspect to Juno. So we started off seeing the ways in which our values were not aligning to the way we show up in relationships, and maybe we haven't been honoring ourselves in the way we need to in relationships specifically. And now Juno went a little bit backwards, Venus continued forward, but now Mars is making this trine here. So that it started with that recognition of these are the ways in which I'm not honoring myself. And now that Mars is making that harmonious aspect, it's allowing us to take proper action, or maybe improper action. It's allowing us to take imperfect, that's what I meant, imperfect action towards the ways in which we show up in relationship, not only with others, but also with self, with Vesta's involvement here as the triad. Phew. Just again, for the sake of time, we're going to keep going. But wow, that was, that's why I take my notes, because I feel like these realizations come as I'm going through them again. Holy moly. Oh, on the 10th, that's a crazy day just in terms of the way this is hitting my birth chart. I'm not going to get into specifics, but oh my god. 10 exact aspects hitting my birth chart. Exact. 10. Count them. 10. That's crazy. Anyway, we're going to continue on. The sun squaring Pallas at 19 degrees Cancer and Aries. Again, that's just going to put another emphasis on what we've been talking about. The way you believe yourself to be and you believe the way you should be doing things is going to be in opposition with your mind and your strategic planning and the wisdom that you are trying, not trying, the wisdom that your innermost self wants you to understand, to allow it to expand. That's the 11th. Then we'll have the Sun conjunct Mercury retrograde on the 12th, which is, again, just going to emphasize that similar fact of, especially Mercury going backwards. You're going to feel very disconnected and disrupted in your thinking. Unless you have a Mercury retrograde in your natal chart, then you might feel a little bit, like a little less discombobulated, I should say. But the Sun conjoining Mercury retrograde, still squaring Pallas and Vesta. Your mind is going to feel like it's all over the place. Let it be. Let it be all over the place. Do what you got to do in order to quiet the ruminations or the anxious thoughts that may be coming up about who you actually are and how you're thinking about this and why you're thinking about this. Do what you got to do to quiet those anxious thoughts, especially through creation. But just lean into it. Lean into it. Don't avoid it and don't allow it to send you down the spiral. It's expansion. Keep telling yourself that. It's expansion. But in order to continue the spiral of expansion, we need to let go of the debris that is ready to be let go of, especially on those outer rings, right? We continue forward. On the 13th, Venus will be at 4 degrees Virgo, where it will exactly square Uranus, quincunx Neptune, and Pluto at 4 degrees Virgo. Oh, wait. Yeah, so square Uranus and then quincunx both Neptune and Pluto. So Virgo for Venus, Gemini for Uranus, Aries for Neptune, Aquarius for Pluto. Check out where those are in your charts. We're just going to continue along. The new moon in Cancer is on the 14th. You know what? I'm going to talk more about the 13th in my new moon in Cancer video, so y'all know where to find that when it's about time. But on that same day that the new moon is in Cancer, It will exactly square Vesta at 21 degrees Aries and then Pallas at 20 degrees Aries and then quincunx Lilith at 23 degrees Sagittarius. So again, we'll talk more about that in the new moon reading. Keep a lookout for that. The 15th is my birthday. Hell yeah, we love that. Let's see. Quick break because my mailman just got here. He had a big package for me, but now we're back. And on the 19th, we will have that cradle aspect. So we will have Jupiter at 4 degrees Leo, directly opposing Pluto retrograde at 4 degrees Aquarius, and then making a trine to the Pluto retrograde. We will have Uranus in Gemini at 4 degrees, and making a trine to Jupiter in Leo. We will have Neptune retrograde at 4 degrees Aries. And that's what cradles represent, right? It's a very stable foundation. And with all of this energy of the external outer planets here, it's a very stable foundation that is allowing you to refocus your energy, as we have been talking about all of Cancer season, right? It's a very stable energy which allows you to almost both pierce and peek through the veil, especially in the realm of the way you approach interactions with other people and how other people approach and perceive you. Now, when we think about a cradle, our first thought goes to babies. It goes to motherhood, yes, but we think more of the baby in the cradle, right? It's an element of protection. It's an element of growth. It's where we go to dream and cry and sleep and just kind of we spend a lot of our lives in that cradle, right? We are the baby in the cradle when we have these big, massive transitionary aspects happening, especially in terms of the outer planetary energies. Now, we have the opposition of Jupiter and Pluto, which oppositions can be a tense aspect, but ultimately they're neutral, just depending on what is involved. That opposition almost puts up a smokescreen, right? Especially in the realm of the ways we approach others. And especially since especially since Leo and Aquarius are involved. Because Leo is the sun, Leo's the individual, Aquarius is the collective. So it's like this opposite energy, this opposing energy of the ways in which we show up as individuals and the ways in which that we are allowing ourselves to show up as individuals ushers in the death of our collective understanding and the death of the collective as it stood. As we prepare for the nodes to transition into Leo and Aquarius as well, there's going to be a massive shift in the dynamic between the collective as it has been for at least 100 years now. The collective with a focus on the individual. The collective with a focus on the 1%, right? On the riches, on how can this small group of people elevate themselves. The collective has been blinded and bamboozled and sent through a cascade of what this 1% of people, this Leo energy, this individualized energy, what they wanted us to believe the collective was actually capable of. Whereas Pluto in Aquarius, and pretty soon after, on the 27th of July, the North Node will join Pluto in Aquarius, the South Node will join Jupiter in Leo. I'm going to talk more about that on my TikTok. I have already a lot. If you want to go check that out, I highly recommend you go do that. That's too much of a conversation just for this video, considering we're already well past time. But this energy of the cradle, and a blue jay just flew right up to my front door. Hi. This energy of the cradle with Jupiter amplifying the brightness of the individual and Pluto allowing the death of the collective understanding to dismantle itself in order to be reborn. Pluto directly trining Uranus, which is dissolving. It's taking down the borders. It's also unpredictable, incomprehensible change. Change that you would never even imagine to expect because it's change that your mind wasn't able to process was actually possible until it happens. That's why we're spending a lot of Cancer season expanding our perspective and our awareness, because this cradle is going to be a massive disruption. And on top of that, with Neptune retrograde making that harmonious aspect to Jupiter, there's going to be a lot of disillusionment in the process. Disillusionment of self, disillusionment of how we see ourselves in comparison with others, disillusionment to how the ways in which we viewed ourselves is opposite and different from the ways in which the collective is both dying and growing and being cradles. We also think of cradles as the place the baby sleeps. And during Cancer season, this is especially potent. As we talked about earlier, Cancer is the youngest water sign. Very, very psychic, intuitive energy. You're going to be downloading and processing a lot in your sleep and in your dreams. Your subconscious is going to be very loud, especially during those last couple days of Cancer season. Very loud. Very, very loud. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to what comes up in your dreams because there will be a key delivered to you to help you understand the self, to help you understand the enigma that you are, and the ways in which you can be the one to cause the disillusionment and the unpredictable chaos and changes in the lives of others. This is trickster energy we're talking about. This is not just to cause that disruption for disruption's sake just because you're bored. This is a power that you must wield responsibly and only cause the disruption and the chaos and the disillusionment in order to benefit the collective, in order to allow the death to bounce into the individual self so that it can expand its perspective to become more enveloped and embodied with the trajectory of the collective. It's moving, allowing yourself to recognize how big you are beyond your ego. Again, I'm going to make more videos about this cradle as we approach it on my TikTok. So if you want more up-to-date transit updates and everything, especially throughout Cancer season, follow me on TikTok, same name as on here, Radius of Aurora. Excited to see you guys there. But we're going to continue from that. On the same day as the cradle, Mars will still be sextiling Saturn throughout the day. Vesta begins an exact trine with Lilith at 23 degrees Aries and Sagittarius, where it will remain for the rest of Cancer season. And then the sun, oh, this is just for me. The sun will be on top of my natal Mercury. Yay. Love that. And then for our last 2 days, again, we have that last quarter, or again, first quarter moon in Libra at 28 degrees Libra. Juno retrograde will officially conjoin Pluto retrograde at 4 degrees Aries, or sorry, 4 degrees Aquarius. So Juno's going to join in on the cradle energy. Juno's joining in the cradle, which brings a whole other dynamic because Juno will be opposite Jupiter, and in terms of mythology, Juno is the wife of Jupiter, but she's going to conjoin Pluto, which is Hades. So it's like mother and uncle come together to oppose the father. You know what? I've got to unpack that myself. I've got to unpack that myself. Get to my TikTok because I will be unpacking that there eventually. And mothers are the ones that birth the babies, which lead to the cradle. This is big. This is really fucking big. Anyway, on the 22nd, we'll have Mars semi-sextiling Mercury at 16 degrees, Mercury retrograde, excuse me, at 16 degrees Gemini and Cancer. Venus will quincunx Saturn at 14 degrees Virgo and Pisces. And then the sun moves into Leo at 3:13 p.m. And to tie this all in a little bow, I finished taking these notes at exactly 3:33 p.m. I wrote a crazy fucking season of planetary energy with a bunch of question marks and then keyboard smash. We're already well past time, so we're gonna try to get through this reading as concisely as possible without rushing, because rushing is silly. This cradle aspect flipped over, Eight of Pentacles, bottom of the deck, Queen of Pentacles and Strength. This cradle aspect is brilliant to me. And honestly, these three together, Eight of Pentacles, Eight of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles, and Strength, and I just split to the Tower. Eight of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles, and Strength is the energy of Cancer season. I said from the beginning, it's going to be, I don't think I said it verbatim, but I implied it's going to be a lot of inner work this Cancer season. A lot of inner work, a lot of shifting, a lot of moving, a lot of letting go so you can expand. That's the work. And I love the Eight of Pentacles because the Eight of Pentacles isn't just like work for work's sake. You're not just slaving away doing something you really don't care about that's not going to be conducive to your growth. The Eight of Pentacles is work towards your destiny. It's work that you're putting in because you know it'll better yourself, it'll better your chances, it'll better your trajectory, it'll better your path in general. It'll better your reputation, it'll better your understanding of self. You're working towards this Queen of Pentacles energy. You're working towards finding your seat of stability and power. And you're recognizing, and the Empress was under strength, you're recognizing truly just how much more powerful you are than you've ever given yourself credit for. That goes back to what I said earlier. Something I said earlier about learning who you are exactly when you're ready to do something about it, exactly when you're ready to create the reality from this seed of strength that you can now see, that you are now able to recognize and comprehend. You didn't see it before because you didn't have the space to do anything about it before. You didn't have the space to do anything about it before. And now you do. And now you're stepping into your role as creative because you are allowing what needs to die to be let go of. You are allowing what needs to be removed because you understand the cost of expansion. You understand the cost of obtaining the true stability and the seat of power that you deserve to sit in. Because the Queen of Pentacles, too, where other than Cups, the other queens can be known to be a bit more selfish leaning. The Queen of Pentacles is a very compassionate, a very generous energy. When she gets into her seat of power, it's because when she gets into her seat of power, part of the reason she got there is because she had the energy of knowing it's not just for me. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier, shifting your perspective from just selfish gains to allowing those gains to be more focused, to allow your trajectory to be collective focused. And in that collective focused trajectory, you also win because you don't just want yourself to win. You're included in the collective. So if you are moving towards a trajectory of collective liberation, you are also being liberated. And that's the Queen of Pentacles energy. She obtains her seat of power because she always had that focus of it's not just for me. It's like a lot of spiritual people have this money blockage, right? Because they see the people who have money, holy shit. They see, oh my God. Let me finish the sentence and then I'll show you the 3 cards that just came out. They see the people who have the money now and how they are selfish and how they hoard it and they keep it in the family, if you will. They do nothing for infrastructure. They do nothing for the cities. They don't even pay their proper share of taxes. Very inconsiderate, wealthy people right now. So spiritual people were taught on purpose. It was a programmed thing. Spiritual people were taught that money is evil. It's not. Money is a tool. No tools that are available to us are evil inherently. It's the way the tools are utilized which can promote evil, which is what's been done with wealth for the last so many generations. Another blue jay at my window. It's what's been done with wealth for so many generations, which taught people that money is evil. But what if the money is in the hands of somebody who doesn't want to hoard it, who wants to pay their fair share in taxes, who wants to give it back to the people, who wants to grow a company where she makes the same amount of money as the lowest employee? What if the money is in the hands of the people who actually want to do good, who want to protect the earth, who want to promote preserves, who want to give back, who want to clean up trash, who want to stop overdevelopment? What if the money is in the hands of the people that actually care? The money itself isn't a tool of evil. And this is the card that fell out as I was shuffling, as I was saying that. And we had the Empress too, by the way. The Emperor fell out as I was talking about the shift in wealth, which we will see, especially as the North Node transits through Aquarius with Pluto. But with Jupiter transiting Leo, while the South Node is in Leo, the old regime is not going to go down without a fight, but it's going down. That was on the bottom of the deck when the Emperor fell out. On the other side of the bottom of the deck was Justice. As we're talking about redistribution of wealth, 3 of Pentacles was under Justice as well. And the Queen of Cups was under Death. What I say earlier, other than the Queen of Cups, the other queens can be a bit more selfish leaning. The more you are able to tap into this necessary expansion that's happening during Cancer season. The more you recognize that maybe up until this point, your desires were more self-serving, more ego-leaning. Maybe up until this point, that's been true because you needed to first discover who the fuck you were. Now that you know who you are, your desires don't only have to be selfish leaning anymore because you're recognizing not only your strength, but the true power you hold. Look at them facing each other. Both of these came out in the last reading I did too. The true power you hold. And with that recognition of power is that expansion of understanding. That compassionate side. Seven of Pentacles was under the Queen of Cups. That compassionate side of yourself. And these two face each other too. That wants to step into that role of provider, of generous queen, not just so you can live a life of your dreams, but so everybody can. So that while you create the truth, while you create the reality you know is right for you, you are allowing the death to reign over the reality that made other people work like slaves to the bone. Because it's time for justice to reign. And true justice means justice and liberation for everybody, not just for the few who can currently afford to obtain it for themselves. And as you approach, give me Queen of Pentacles again. As you approach the seat of power, recognizing that the more you can lean into collective liberation, which includes you, the right people are going to come in with the exact fucking resources you need in order to continue along your trajectory. But the main focus here is allowing is that the star? Oh no, that's okay. It's allowing, the main focus is to allow yourself to not only focus on you. And that's especially going to be true as we approach the cradle towards the end of Cancer season. The beginning of Cancer season is a necessary expansion, so you can stop viewing yourself in such strict, rigid, confined walls. So you can start to see your truth, the extent of your truth, the extent of your power, so you can actually start to do something about it. So you can actually start to make changes that benefit not only you, but everybody, but the collective. And I think no more cards are coming out. So I think that's it. This was a longer one. Thanks for being here today. Oh my fucking God. Are you kidding me? This is how I ended it. I wasn't looking at the deck at all. This is how it ended, right? With the World. Oh, what's that sticking out? The World and the King of Cups. Arguably the most compassionate masculine card. We had the King and the Queen of Cups, the Emperor and the Empress, the Queen of Pentacles, Strength. And I just split it to the Lovers. So yeah. And I'm going to emphasize again, I stopped shuffling on the World. This Cancer season, and then I just split to the Ten of Cups as well. This Cancer season, like I'm speechless. Again, not to plug me for a third time, but I will be going through these transits with a more fine-tooth comb on my TikTok as we approach them. So follow me on there, Radius of Aurora, if you do want to see me on there. But otherwise, lean in. Let the end be a friend and allow expansion to mend. Thanks for being here, y'all. Love y'all. Bye.